And with that, let's bring in former Democratic presidential candidate who is now backing Donald Trump, Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi, it's great to have you on the show. So the big news, of course, is that you and RFK Jr. now part of the transition team. What does it mean, Tulsi? I'm not saying you have to define your role, but I'm thinking, what does it mean for two independents to join the Trump transition team?
Oh, I think it speaks to the bigger point about what President Trump is doing here. He is showing that this election is not about Democrats versus Republicans. It's about voters having the choice between a president in Donald Trump who stands for freedom and peace and prosperity for all Americans versus Kamala Harris, who is a person who will certainly bring about an increasingly tyrannical government, more war, and economic hardship, the same economic hardship we've seen over the last 3.5 years. And it's not about taking my word for it or an opinion or a view. Both of these candidates, President Trump and Vice President Harris, have two very real records to compare and contrast. And boy, they couldn't be different. This is the choice before voters. Rise above partisanship. President Trump is showing that he can bring people together who may not agree on every issue, but who value what is most important, which is protecting and defending our fundamental rights and freedoms that are enshrined in the Constitution and making it possible to live in a truly peaceful and prosperous society.
It's interesting when you talk about Kamala Harris's record, because there's word now that you could be helping the former president with debate preparations. Of course, it's very well established that you pretty efficiently took down Kamala Harris in 2019. Is that something that you relish, the opportunity to be able to help in that aspect?
Well, I want to be helpful in whatever way that I possibly can. And if I can be helpful to President Trump at all in this area, it really is just to share the experience that I had and what I learned in sharing that stage with Kamala Harris back in 2019. And quite frankly, the kinds of tricks that she will play in order to deflect away from her record, which voters need to know about. And the mainstream media, the propaganda media, is trying to cover up. She will rehearse some lines and deliver them very well. President Trump knows the issues, and he knows her record, and I look forward to seeing him challenge her and expose the truth about who Kamala Harris really is.
I wanted to get your take on a couple of hot issues. One, this Mark Zuckerberg letter where he comes out saying, listen, admitting that the Biden-Harris administration pressured them during COVID-19 to censor, and he used the word censor, COVID-19 content, said the laptop was not disinformation. What do you think of that admission?
It's coming. Well, first of all, it is what many of us have known all along, and I'm glad he had the courage to come forward and speak the truth, especially right now. And this is really important, Trace, because you have Kamala Harris, who's building her whole campaign around freedom. This is her new mantra that she's repeating. She repeated it in her debate, in her speech at the Democratic convention, that she's going to be a president who champions freedom. But the fact is, as Mark Zuckerberg just exposed, it is Harris and Joe Biden who got him and Facebook to do their dirty work in censoring our right to free speech. Once again, her words do not match her actions. So we got to turn down the volume on whatever it is she's saying and just look at her record, because that tells us the whole story about why we should not allow her in the White House as our president.
Tulsi Gabbard, it's great to have you on the show, as always.
Thanks,
Best
Trace.
of luck to you, and thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.